Bonjour, Kinamagi and Ireland Dijnikast, and welcome to the latest episode from the My Math Network. Today's episode featuring Chapter 12, Lesson 5, Classify Quadrilaterals. And as always, the essential question in Chapter 12, how does geometry help me solve problems in everyday life? Before we begin, you should have the Lesson 5 packet. It begins on page 929, and it has a series of different shapes, such as trapezoid, rectangle, square, rhombus, and parallelogram. If you don't have this, you should pause the video and go grab one. Anytime you're doing geometry, it's also not a bad idea to have a protractor and a ruler. So if you're going to go ahead and pause the video, do such now, and we'll see you on the other side. Welcome back. So what are the attributes of a quadrilateral? Well, we know that they are going to have 4 sides, 4 line segments, and 4 angles. We know that they don't cross the lines, so it doesn't look like a figure 8. And we also know that it doesn't have any open spaces. So it's not going to look like the letter G, for instance. But we are able to look at some of the other attributes, including whether it has congruent sides, parallel sides, or right angles. So in a modeling, and you can kind of picture the space around you if you're not in the classroom, objects that represent each type of quadrilateral. And I'll bring up the one that's a sample here. A rectangle would be like the door frame, or maybe the computer in the front of our classroom. Parallelogram, the side of an eraser, and we're not talking about the little ones going into the pencils, the bigger ones. A rhombus would be a poster. A square, well, this doesn't necessarily apply so much in our room, but some windows are square. And the front end of a stapler may appear to be a trapezoid. So you can draw based on these. And I'm going to bring up because I am not the greatest artiste. Exactly one pair of parallel sides. You can see that there. One pair of opposite sides congruent. So it looks like a trapezoid. A rectangle can have opposite sides parallel, opposite sides congruent, or right angles. And keep in mind, a square is a specific type of rectangle where all 4 sides are congruent. So now what I'd like you to do is make sure your name is on page 929. And this is what it looks like. And this is really small. So we're going to talk about it, and then I will put the answer key on there as we go and be able to discuss it. And make sure that as we're going through any lesson material, that you're filling in the blanks as we go. Anytime that you fall a little behind, feel free to pause the video or rewind it if necessary so that you can stay caught up. So first off, we're going to start up here. Trapezoid is in its own little world. It's quadrilateral with exactly one pair of opposite sides parallel. And you can see that's the top and bottom here. So exactly one pair of opposite sides parallel. If both sides are, it's no longer a trapezoid. And a trapezoid, and you saw a chart similar to this on our spiral quiz earlier, and trapezoid sticks out by itself. So now over here, we just see a plain quadrilateral, 4 sides. Nothing fancy about it. So now let's look at some of these here. Let's go clockwise. A parallelogram is a quadrilateral, 4 sides here, with opposite sides congruent and parallel. So you can see it here. So these two are congruent and parallel. These two are congruent and parallel. They don't necessarily all have to be different lengths. They could, all four of them could be a parallelogram, say a congruent as far as a parallelogram goes. But key thing, opposite sides are congruent and parallel. A rhombus is a parallelogram with four sides congruent. So a rhombus is what I just mentioned there, with four sides of the same or congruent. Sometimes people call them kites. Please use rhombus because I've seen kites where it's much more elongated. Now there's a particular type of rhombus. If it has four right angles, it is a parallelogram with four sides congruent, and those four right angles, it's a square. And these little pink boxes here, they're going to show you that's a 90-degree angle. And another type of parallelogram with four right angles, but not four congruent sides, is the rectangle. So a square is a rectangle, technically. It's just that it has four congruent sides instead of two congruent sides. Go ahead and fill that in. When you're ready, flip to the next page. We'll start on 9:30. You may pause the video now. Welcome back. So now let's go to 9:30. Example, oh, sorry. Back this up. That was example basic. Square that has all the attributes of a rectangle and a rhombus, as we mentioned there. Now let's go to 9:30. Example niche. One side of the Realia building in Madrid, Spain is shown on the right. See it right here, outlined in red. Describe the attributes of the quadrilateral. It has opposite sides. So our first off, this side and this side, what do we know? They appear to be parallel, and we could check that by measuring these angles here. Opposite angles are the same or congruent. And then we can also say that the same length, so those are congruent. So it is a, if you said parallelogram, you are correct. Go ahead and fill those in if you haven't already. You may pause the video if necessary, and then we'll go from there. Welcome back. Now we're on the guided practice. Going pretty fast today. There are two here. Describe the attributes of the quadrilateral below, then classify the quadrilateral based on its attributes. So opposite sides are what? Well, these are 90-degree angles. So we know these two are parallel and these two are parallel. And we can deduce that they are also congruent. There are four right angles. So that is if you said rectangle, you are correct. Go ahead and fill that in. And then we'll check the second guided practice. Welcome back. The design below is made up by repeating quadrilateral. Describe the attributes of that quadrilateral. So let's look at one of the blue ones here. It has how many congruent sides? This way. Yeah, opposite sides are parallel. So it is a rhombus. Go ahead and fill that in. Why a square is a special kind of rectangle? It's special because all four sides are congruent. All right, so now we're on the independent practice on 9:31. First ones, I want you to do 3 and 4. Write down whether you see 90-degree angles or right angles, whether opposite sides are congruent or parallel, and then identify or classify the quadrilateral. You should pause the video. When you're done, unpause the video and see how you did. You may pause the video now. Welcome back. Opposite sides are congruent and parallel, so this is a parallelogram. All sides are congruent, opposite sides are parallel, so that's a rhombus. Let's move on to numbers 5 and 6. Circle the quadrilaterals that have all the attributes of a parallelogram, and then a rhombus. You may pause the video now. Welcome back. Let's see how you did. So rectangle, rhombus, and square all have the attributes of a parallelogram. Trapezoid does not. That has exactly one pair of parallel sides. That's it. And rhombus, square. They all have to be congruent. All right, 7, whether the following statements are true or false, and if false, why? All parallelograms have opposite sides congruent and parallel. Since rectangles are parallelograms, all rectangles have opposite sides congruent and parallel. So when you pause the video, write true or false, and if it's false, explain why. You may pause the video now. Welcome back. Let's see how you did. It's true. All right, 8, all squares have 4 congruent sides. Since rectangles are squares, all rectangles have 4 congruent sides. Right, you pause the video, write down what you think, and then come back. Welcome back. The answer to this one is, of course, false. Rectangles do not have to have 4 congruent sides. Just have to have at least 2. And last one, let's get a story problem here. Many aircraft display the shape of the American flag is shown below to indicate motion. What is this quadrilateral? Go ahead and pause the video and then unpause it when you're ready. Welcome back. It's a parallelogram. So let's look at the assignment here. I'm going to give you a reminder. You can always use the first part of this paper. I would even suggest that maybe you, when you're done, maybe cut out part of 929 and or tape it or glue it into your notebook. And here you're going to write the attributes and then classify it. Name all the quadrilaterals that have the given attributes. Then looking at 929 between trapezoid, parallelogram, rhombus, square, and rectangle. And your vocab check. When you are complete, you will turn it in the classroom. Or if you happen to be out for an extended period of time, you can take a picture of both sides with your name on both sides and email it to me, and I can grade it from there. If you have any questions, please reach out to me at mireland@sagchipschool.net. Hope you all have a minute. Minwa, Pamapi.